G'day, freedom lovers. Mark is back. Sorry, I've been away for a little while. Been busy trying to earn money and whatnot. Let's get straight to the point because we've got a bit of a time limit because I haven't got enough money to pay for Zoom. So we're back here with Deborah from the Frog Hospital here in North Queensland. She has a bit of an issue that she'd like to discuss with a broader community, and perhaps you guys can come along and help us out. Deborah, g'day. Thanks for coming on. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in your world at the moment.
Hi, Mark. How you going? Yes, 2023 has turned out to be an extremely bad year for us so far. The house that we've been renting and fixed up is being sold, which means we have to get out and move again. Same as any renter, renters have no rights when it comes down to properties being sold. When it sells, we have to get out at our own expense. So that's the first of the problems we've got, is that, the public's hurting. There's a lot of things taking away people's disposable income, and as a result, charities like us are not getting donations anymore. So the money has almost completely stopped coming in the door, and now we have to finance a relocation and almost certainly much higher rent in a new facility. So that's the first of our problems. The second is that now we have a whole bunch of things to do besides the work that we always do with receiving animals and documenting problems, is that now we have to pack up a 4-bedroom house and get it ready for removalists. And I have one volunteer. I don't know how I'm supposed to do all this. I can't understand why we can't get help out of the local community, but the local community is not really interested in our work. So I have to do all this stuff myself as well as running the group. We have 4 plans, Plan A through Plan D, as to where are we supposed to go, especially with this rent situation that's upon us. If we can't afford a place that is spacious enough for us to continue to receiving animals, then we will be forced to drop the Frog Hospital activity. We will run the website and we will run communications, but if all we could afford is to have an office, then that's all we're going to be able to have, which is really tragic because we're now having to have conversations with academics who are interested in pursuing some of these frog problems and co-publishing papers with us. We've waited 20 years for this kind of interest out of the academic community. And now that that's happening, we don't know where we're going to go and if we can even afford to keep running the animal receiving operation. So Plan A is to find a place directly through an owner. We can't afford what real estate agents are doing to rental prices. So we need to find at least a 2-bedroom plus some sort of large space, whether it's a garage or an enclosed downstairs or just space, to be able to keep receiving animals. And the absolute most we can pay per week for that is about $350 a week. That's the most we can afford. If we can't find that, and we're looking all over far North Queensland, if we can't find that, Plan B is to just get a 2-bedroom place and run the office. We hope it doesn't come to that, but it might. And the most we can pay for that is $300 a week. Plan C is we're also looking at really, really cheap houses that might need a little bit of work and see if we can find somebody to buy a cheap property. And when I say cheap property, I'm talking something about $250,000 to $275,000. There is a place actually at the outskirts of Ravenshoe that would suit us at the moment. So Plan C is to find somebody who can afford to just buy a cheap property and rent it to us permanently, and we'll help fix it up and increase the value on it. And at least we'll have a permanent home because we're sick and tired of these moves. And Plan D is that there is actually a really fantastic large acreage at Milan in far North Queensland. This acreage used to be a cattle property. Half of it is still forested. It's 200 acres. 100 acres is still forested. The front half is no longer suitable to cattle because of Nauvoo sedge infestation. So we're trying to find somebody to buy that. There is a house on the property that we could rent. There's also a really huge shed that could have 2 other tenants doing organic production, whatever, vanilla, honey, whatever. And the front half of that could be re-vegged. And if that happens, that will actually join 2 entire national parks. So this property is the only space in between those 2 national parks. And if we get this property and re-veg it, then we can actually link up this huge forest expanse, which would be really fantastic for cassowaries, tree kangaroos, but especially the spectacled flying fox. So those are our 4 plans. There's so many ways that people can be involved in keeping us alive. Donations are the obvious thing. We have to raise the money to move out. The next thing we're doing is that we're never going to be able to afford a place the size of this place. So we're trying to sell off a lot of our stuff. So I'm putting ads on Gumtree. So if people are looking for things, which might be aquariums, bird transport cases, ponds, or Star Wars stuff, there's all sorts of stuff that we're trying to unload because we need the money and because we can't afford to physically move all that stuff to another place. So if people want to keep an eye on Gumtree, if they're looking for stuff, we need to sell stuff. We need volunteers to help. We've got to pack up everything. We have to drain all our ponds, which have tadpoles in them at the moment, but all of them have to be drained and then sold off. So any physical help that people can do, and also spreading the word. So you might know somebody who has a house west of Innisfail or Fishery Falls or Ravenshoe or Speewah or just somewhere up here in far North Queensland. If you know somebody who owns a house and wants to find a really good tenant to rent it in a long-term sense, or somebody who actually has a little bit of cash who wants to buy a property for investment purposes, they might buy this place at Ravenshoe that we're looking at and rent it to us permanently. So just spread the word through social media or anywhere, word of mouth. A lot of private rentals are word of mouth. They're not necessarily on the internet. So anything that anybody can do would be fabulous, because after 24 years of doing this, we don't want to have to shut our animal receiving doors. But the current financial situation is devastating. And if we can't find a way to get over it, or we don't have enough people that want to help, then we will have to shut our animal receiving doors. And that means that any of the scientific projects that we're now looking at, they will be canceled as well. Because if we can't get the animals, then we can't participate in these scientific projects. So that, in a very fast nutshell, is where we're at. And I can say 2023 it might be a 7-year, but it's not showing itself to be lucky for us yet. Might change later in the year, but now it doesn't look very good.
Oh, hopefully it will change for you. So when you're looking for a property, are you confined to sort of a more rural area, or are you able to actually sustain yourself in somewhere as built up as, say, Cairns and Townsville?
If we found, I think the rents in the inner city areas are much higher than they are in the regions anyway. So I'm not sure that we could afford to be in Cairns or Townsville. So we probably are looking at a more remote situation. But one of the things that really bothers me is that the closer you get to a very developed area, like Cairns or Townsville, the more you're going to be completely surrounded by mobile towers. And I have a major problem with that. I do not want to be within 2 kilometers of any tower. So that pretty much forces us to be in the outer edges of things anyway. And we're lucky in far North Queensland that a lot of the tablelands and a lot of the coast doesn't have mobile coverage at all. So a lot of people would consider that to be a problem. I consider that to be a benefit. So I think we are stuck with a rural regional situation just because I don't want to be anywhere near any of those towers. And if you have a look at some of the outputs and the site assignments for some of those towers, they're not only going with 5G, they're going higher than 5G. I've already found 2 locations that we were looking at the possibility of renting. And as soon as I find out how many gigahertz they're running, I thought, no way in hell. I'm not going to be anywhere near those communities. So you've got to have a look at your local tower readouts and see what exactly they're running on those things. These are not beneficial frequencies. So yes, I think we're stuck with a rural outer suburbs type of location, and that'll be okay. We can still deal with that. That's all right. And it would be nice to have nature around anyway. Where we are is a beautiful spot. We've got cassowaries coming through here, wallabies, foot-long centipedes. There's even scorpions on the patio. It's real nature and it's lovely. But who knows where we're going to end up next?
Well, I think you've outlaid pretty well what you'd like from the community to do to help, as far as donating and lending a hand and whatnot. How involved is a big move like that, and what kind of implication you're saying? You're selling a lot of things off, obviously going to have to buy things new as well. Wouldn't it be more beneficial to move what you have rather than sell what you have?
Can't afford it. Not unless there's a few wealthy people that come along and throw, $1,000 at us at a time. The last move that we did from Garner's Beach to Carmoo cost $5,000. And that was before we got all the ponds that we've set up outside. The move before that from Edmonton to Garner's cost $7,000. Plus, we had a whole slew of volunteer help with that. People with utes who were transporting a lot of things on utes or trailers, and it still cost $7,000. We have a lot of stuff here, and we will not be able to afford to move that stuff unless we get a couple really good sized donations to deal with it. We filled 3 trucks the last time when we moved from Edmonton to Garner's. It took 3 truckloads plus all the utes. So it's just too much stuff involved in the animal care, all the glass stuff, all the plastic tanks, all the supplies, all the office stuff. We've got 3 computers here and a map cabinet. So running a full-fledged operation like this, there's just too much equipment and stuff involved, plus all the stuff outside. So yeah, we will have to sell off a lot of stuff. And if we don't have it in the future, we don't have it in the future. It's just the reality of it. We will not be able to find this level of space at this kind of rental in the current situation. It's the rents are just totally over the top. We'll be lucky if we can pay the rent on a 2-bedroom place.
Yeah. And
we certainly won't be able to afford it to move all this stuff into a 2-bedroom place.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless there's, some good Samaritan out there who says, hey, I know what you're going through. I've had to do it myself. Here's $2,000. That'll certainly make a big dent in the cost of the removalist. But I know that we'll need at least $5,000 to do this relocation. So.
Yeah, I wish I had a big bank account to help you out. If I had that big bank account, I probably would have done more videos lately as well. But we'll do whatever we can to help you, especially when it comes to move. Let us know again what's going on, and I'll do my best to get down and give you a hand. I'm pretty sure Oliver will jump in on that too, and we'll see who else we can get in from the community to come give you a hand. I'm a bit conscious of the time. There's always many questions I want to ask you, and obviously got a bit of a finger on the pulse as far as what's good and bad in the environment. If possible, have we got maybe a quick 5-minute rundown of what's going on with the wind farm situation, if you've got any insight into that?
Okay, well, we're still waiting on Tanya Plibersek to make a decision about Chulumbin. So I imagine that probably is coming fairly soon, because I would think that these guys have got certain time limits on when they have to make some of these decisions. So we're still waiting for the final decision on Chulumbin. I have had some correspondence with the Caban wind farm about the magnificent brood frog, and they insist that they have their own ecologists that are working on site. And I asked if they would share their results from their own surveys with the magnificent brood frog recovery team, and they said no. So that was interesting. But I've noticed that even in the media, especially in Australia Sky News, they're starting to get a lot of blowback about renewables, that the bad financial investment involved in renewables, the poor returns on investment, the unreliability, all the problems in renewables are really starting to come out more and more in a wide variety of places. People are waking up to the fact that this is not the answer. And if you're going to blow all your money on this, and shut off all the coal-fired power plants at the same time, you're just going to leave us all sitting in the dark, because you're replacing something reliable and powerful with something that is not reliable and not much power either. So a lot more people are starting to wake up to this issue. Not all the environment groups, of course. There's still some that are very brainwashed about it and don't want to have a discussion at all about how bad renewables are as far as reliable baseload. But there does seem to be a lot more articles appearing in the press that are questioning whether this is really a good decision for the Australian government to do. So that's sort of a little refreshing. You can see a little light at the end of the tunnel there.
That's definitely good to see that.
But that's about all I've got on wind farms.
Within the environmental community, it's good to see that they are starting to wake up to the fact that this is going to take more mining, not less. And, I've seen Palachuk come out on her Facebook page saying how good it is for Queensland that we're going to be strip mining the place even further, and it's good for jobs. But at the same hand, we're trying to save the world from this, carbon footprint and whatnot. And it just to me demonstrates another amazing contradiction in, particularly the Labor and, greenie sort of movement, where we want to save the world while strip mining at the same time. Seems like a massive contradiction. So hopefully people start to wake up to the fact that, yeah, look, we've got to do something. We are polluting the environment and things got to change, but we need an intelligent way of doing things, and definitely to be able to talk about it, not to be shut down because you're a climate denier or whatever ridiculous insult they have to throw at people in order to pussyfoot around or step around legitimate issues. So,
and the bottom line is carbon is not a problem. We need carbon. Carbon grows vegetation, and vegetation produces oxygen. So you have to really scratch below the surface to see what are the narratives and the agenda here. Because why would you want to get rid of carbon in our atmosphere when that is part of the whole basis of life on this planet? And all our everything that lives needs oxygen in some form or another. And we're trying to say, oh, we can't have that. We'll get rid of the carbon and then we won't have so much oxygen. What do you think's going to happen when we cut down the oxygen levels?
Yeah.
There's some awful logic and narratives at play there, and they're not going to help us. I should probably stop. I should stop there.
Well, I think you and I see eye to eye on this pretty well. It's just common sense, really, and I think a lot of people seem to be very void of common sense when it comes to these issues. And like most things, people are coming at it from a place of fear, and when you're living in the realm of fear, you can't think clearly. You're engaged in fight or flight response. You're not even in the compassionate mammalian part of your brain. You haven't even got to the prefrontal cortex. You're stuck in reptile brain. So, you need to be able to step away from the fear and look at things logically in order to come up with a basic solution. I think that's the biggest problem.
I think the other problem is the level of distraction. So people's brains are being hijacked. They're focusing all their attention on whatever the latest distraction is, which I think at the moment is balloons in the sky. They're focused on these sort of things, but it's really hijacking. They're not thinking about anything else because all their attention has been diverted to, balloons or the Kardashians or, whatever, the Depp trial, just ridiculous stuff. So there's nothing left for your brain to work on because you're just been pulled into the pen. You're focused on this thing and you're getting news on that every single day, and all the rest of the world's going by you and you're not even thinking about it because you're so busy being hijacked by something.
It all comes from a place of fear. To me, I just instantly thought, hang on, didn't we see this in Roswell back in, what was it, 67 or whatever it was, hot air balloons, and again, the affiliation with UFOs.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, wow, this is just... Talk about recycling, and we didn't even get the community or someone to come out with a UFO story. The government went straight to that on their own. Like, it's just real. Hang on. Do they exist or don't they exist? Make up your mind. I don't know. I'm confused. But I think that's kind of, where they're going in a lot of cases, is just throwing absolutely anything and everything at people to keep so many wild topics and concepts alive. And everybody's diving down rabbit holes left, right, and center and making themselves look silly instead of stepping back and going, hang on, what are these people talking about? None of this makes sense. But anyway, like I said, conscious of the time. Thank you very much for coming on, Deborah. And I hope there's some people out there in the community that can give you a hand. We'll definitely do what we can here at North Queensland Freedom Network. Best of luck, and definitely keep us appraised of the situation as it develops.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks very much for your interest.
No worries.
Have a good day.
You too. Take it easy. And for all you people watching out there, thanks for watching. If you can, definitely help Deborah out wherever you can. And if you can chip a couple of bucks our way as well, that'll help keep the lights on. As you've noticed, it's been a bit of a break, and I apologize for that. But, finances, I got 5 kids to feed, as they would say from Total Recall.
Hey, man, I got 5 kids to feed.
So anyway, this is me signing out. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.